I went to see Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey and I did not hate it. In fact, I actually quite liked it. And that puts me in the minority of people who've seen this movie, and that is quite contrary to most of the reviews I've seen out there. So I've got my cup of tea here with me. Let's talk about this. So, based on the reactions and the reviews of this film, I thought this was going to be a train wreck. And I quite frankly feel like this movie is a victim of one giant big train of hate. So I was quite nervous. I had very low expectations going into it. In fact, I almost didn't go and see the movie at all. I just thought I'll leave this one behind and I don't want to spend money to see this, but I went anyway, and I'm actually glad that I did. And I don't understand where all of this vitriol is coming from for this film. So it was directed by Kogonada, who I believe has two movies out, After Yang and Columbus Hits, that actually did pretty well, both of which I have not seen. But it does star Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie as two individuals who are single, I guess, who are really wanting true love. But essentially, the premise of the film is that they get taken through some magical doors back to moments in their lives that make them who they are today, and I guess moments that make them in people that struggle to find that deep, meaningful love, that deep, meaningful romantic love. So that's the premise of this movie, and I actually was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was engaging. In the first act of the film, as I was sitting there, I just thought, I haven't quite found something terribly wrong with this. Like, what I'm kind of waiting for the shoe to drop. I don't really know what people are talking about. This is completely fine. I'm enjoying it. It looked beautiful in terms of the style, in terms of the colors. I liked the shooting style. I thought it flowed really beautifully. I loved Colin Farrell performance and Margot Robbie as well. I also quite enjoyed the fact that Margot Robbie, it felt like she was taking on a kind of more nuanced and quieter role, which is something that I don't really normally see her in. So this felt like something new for her, which was quite refreshing. And I really quite liked that. I liked that this movie was actually bold. I liked that it tried new things. It was very quirky, very different. It was just refreshing from your standard kind of style of cinematography and editing and everything. So there was lots of music in the background. I mean, thematically, maybe in terms of what they were trying to put forward in the feel of this, that was maybe potentially not as clear, but that did not, deter me at all from this film. I suppose that one of my favorite things of this movie was the deep themes that were explored. I do feel that there was lots of meaty kind of things to go through, and I'll actually talk about the deeper themes towards the end of this video. However, I thought it was lovely. The only two things I have to say that were factors for me were that the music, I think, was a little bit overpowering sometimes. I think that was more of an editing choice. There was times where they put, I feel, inappropriate music during some moments that could have been quiet or could have had quieter music. I thought the music editing was actually a bit excessive. I could have definitely used less music there. Sometimes that powering music and just too much of it took me out of the film a little bit. And I think the second thing is probably I would say the age gap difference between Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie. And I only noted this in particular at the end of this film when there was a kissing scene between them and the age difference between them was highlighted. So I think that kind of kissing scene, I was pretty happy that it was left towards the end because it kind of took me out of the film a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, the age difference is really highlighting this, but I didn't get a sense of that throughout this film. However, I know a lot of people are complaining about the lack of chemistry between them. I actually thought they had decent chemistry. I don't think it was anything astronomical, but I don't think that was the purpose of this movie. I don't think it was about their chemistry. I think it was more about them individually as people. I think the chemistry that they did have was adequate and was enough. I thought it was fine. Like I said, save for right at the end of this film, when I'm glad that they saved that towards the end, because I think if that scene had taken place maybe in the middle of the film, it would have highlighted kind of that age difference, which kind of looked a little bit weird right at the end. So that's all I have to say. So getting into some of the deeper themes that I picked up from this movie, I really think it was about inner child healing. So as they were going through the different doors back to their past, which was all pointing towards their childhood, things that happened at school, personal things that happened with their parents and how they were raised, it was really about going back and talking to their younger selves and kind of healing that inner part of, that younger part of themselves that was not healed, that was still left hurting. And I really like that as a concept. And I find that has been quite a theme in movies that I've seen this year. I did a film on Thunderbolts and Mickey 17 some months ago that kind of was also exploring these themes of inner healing, inner child healing, and I guess parts work of healing different parts of ourselves that maybe are overactive and are actually blocking us into moving forward in life. And in this case, for them, it was younger versions of themselves that had not been reconciled and were actually subconsciously blocking them, I suppose, from finding that love that they really wanted and that they both deserved. Something that I also noted was that a quote that I thought of actually preparing for this video is the quote by Carl Jung, who was the famous father of psychoanalysis, or analysis psychology. And the quote is that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So they had relationship issues that they didn't quite understand, I mean, Margot Robbie has specific relationship issues. Colin Farrel had specific relationship issues. They were still both single, and over the course of their magical journey, their big, bold, beautiful journey, they were required to make their unconscious life conscious, to break the pattern of them sabotaging love. And the unconscious that was working through them was their inner child and their childhood experiences, and that literally had to be brought into the conscious for them to resolve those things and for them to move forward. So I thought that was really deep. I thought that was incredibly deep, and I really, really enjoyed that as a theme. I suppose the last thing that tied it really well together was this theme of love and vulnerability, and how they both realized that they can't continue using their past experiences or who they think that they were and their past disappointments as armor to shield themselves from experiencing love again, because the truth of the matter is that to love means that we're putting ourselves at risk of getting hurt, right? Like, being vulnerable means that we could get hurt. Being vulnerable means that things may not work out. We can put ourselves out there and things don't work out. However, to live a meaningful life is to fully live, right? And fully living is being vulnerable and being open at the risk of potentially getting hurt. And I think that was the ultimate lesson of this film. They both took a risk for love, and that was what they learned, compared to how they used to do things where they were guided and they had walls up. So I think it was amazing, really, as themes, as two main themes. I thought it was really, really refreshing. I thought it was quite deep. I really loved it. I felt quite emotionally satisfied, and I kind of felt like I sat through a therapy session there. So I think that was really lovely and very warm. So those things to me completely eclipsed any other imperfections in this movie, which was not perfect at all. However, I think that the depth of the story and the themes eclipsed all the other imperfections that maybe other people just, you know, they couldn't get past. And for me, because it was so deep and nuanced, I was so engrossed in this therapy session that I was really not overly cognizant of all of the things that everybody hates about this movie. I mean, yeah, I've noticed some very interesting kind of commentary about it, and I do agree it was not perfect, but for me it was definitely worth the watch. It was not a wait, and I encourage you to go and see it. So if you have seen this film, please comment below, let me know what you think. And yeah, thank you for seeing this video, and I'll see you next time.